Howdy everyone, I'm Sully from TigerBricks, and this is going to be my review of the LEGO-style documentary Piece by Piece, detailing the life of Pharrell Williams. If you know one thing about me, it's that I really enjoy LEGO, and I like sharing that passion with you guys on YouTube, but I also really enjoy watching movies, and I've linked my Letterboxd in the description if you guys are interested in following that. Anyways, let's talk about the movie, and I'll tell you guys why I think it's good and what could be better about it. So when LEGO announced this movie earlier this year, I think everybody had the same reaction. What the hell does LEGO have to do with Pharrell Williams? It felt like a huge step in a different direction from the LEGO movie, the LEGO Batman movie, and the others. But I think everyone sort of agreed that the production of a documentary with LEGO animation was definitely ambitious and had huge potential. So of course I had to get the earliest showing possible so I could really have time to think about how I felt before putting it out there on YouTube. When the film starts, it's much different from the other LEGO movies. It does feel like a documentary with a camera following around LEGO Pharrell and his house and then going to an interview. Then Pharrell starts explaining his decision to make a creative LEGO film because of all the colors, and it's a pretty good and poetic metaphor that leads into what I was expecting with some beautifully creative scenes made with LEGO pieces. And that's the thing, when the movie isn't being a LEGO movie, it's being a documentary and vice versa. It's sort of an incohesive experiment, but it really does work, and Morgan Neville directed it wonderfully. I was completely interested in the story for the entire runtime, and if it got boring, there were cool LEGO scenes or funny jokes. I definitely see the vision that Pharrell or whoever had when they conceptualized it. Piece by Piece is colorful, experimental, beautiful, and different, and I think that's what Pharrell's mind is to music. While I'm not the biggest fan of it, I do enjoy his hip-hop. There's a great diversity in his skill set, and he's a very talented producer, singer, and designer. And of course, the movie makes it a point to show that what Pharrell does is different, not so much that he is different. There's some pretty cool scenes talking about his synesthesia, which is basically like having one sense trick another sense into working. As a result, Pharrell's mind interprets music as bright and bold colors, which really pairs well with LEGO, and that's the whole idea behind the film. That being said, the movie isn't all perfect. It is a little bit fast-paced, and I wouldn't even say it's a kid's film, but they definitely trimmed it down to 94 minutes to fit that sort of attention span. And there's a few parts that they don't elaborate on, like Pharrell went to school with Missy Elliott and Timbaland, who are two of the biggest names in hip-hop, but it barely mentions them besides that he hung out with them. Then there's a part in the film, and I guess you would call it the downfall, that I had been anticipating for a while. The movie just has this sort of exponential success story, like a rocket ship taking off and never stopping for his whole career. And the downfall was pretty unsatisfactory. I think to most people, Pharrell has always been pretty famous, and there wasn't a period where he stopped making music for an abnormally long amount of time for any reason. But there's sort of an incohesive part where he doesn't make music for 3 years, which is pretty normal for artists, and then he returns and has it pretty rough. There's a beautiful scene after the death of his grandmother where he writes the song Happy, but previously, before this incident, they had played Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke. I mean, this was over a decade ago, but everybody knows on the radio they just constantly played Blurred Lines, Happy, Get Lucky, and from what I see, his grandmother died in 2014, which would have been after those massive hits in 2013. It seemed a little discontinuous, and maybe like the story was a little exaggerated to me just because of that. I don't blame them though, because the movie was definitely craving at least some sort of conflict, and it's not a biopic, but it could kind of pass as one. It's definitely more of a documentary though. But anyways, this conflict ultimately culminates in a rushed introduction to All Right off of Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly album, and the Black Lives Matter movement. Unfortunately, the movie doesn't touch too much on BLM nor the struggles with race Pharrell might have faced growing up, which signals to me that they tried to make it as kid-friendly as possible. It doesn't dive much further into any of Pharrell's musical endeavors past 2016, besides his documentary, which has been in the works since 2020. I guess my biggest complaint I have is that the movie doesn't have any sort of message that I picked up on. I've seen videos of Pharrell Williams talking about how everybody needs an inspirational story to look up to, but I personally think there's nothing to take away from this documentary. Everything is sort of addressed on the surface or not much in detail at all. Piece by Piece is not your traditional rags to riches story. While it mentions Pharrell grew up in the projects on Virginia Beach, it sounded like he had some pretty supportive people around him and found success with some hard work. The documentary mentions that he repeated 7th grade twice because he had a hard time in school, but he also managed to go to Northwestern University for 2 years before dropping out to pursue his musical endeavors. That's not to discredit Pharrell at all, however, as he signed with the label while still in high school due to his style and skill. Overall, I enjoyed the movie. I was mesmerized by some of the scenes and a lot of the jokes made me laugh. Ultimately, it's not as good as the Lego Movie or the Lego Batman movie, but the story is of course non-fiction. I'd love to write it off as some sort of vanity project or Universal Music Group redemption, but the whole concept just works so well and seems entirely separated from UMG. My final score for Piece by Piece is a 78 out of 100. If you're headed to the movies this weekend, skip Megalopolis. It's one of the most boring movies I've ever seen. Try to catch Piece by Piece or Transformers 1. Look forward to the scenes with Snoop Dogg because they're definitely my favorite. If you're looking for some live action, I also enjoyed Joker 2, but I seem to be in the minority on that one. See ya.